fine. How are you?
Good, good, doing good. You know, Sunday, trying to relax a little on Sunday.
Yeah.
Um, so I was telling everyone a little bit what's happening today, what we're going to be talking about. So welcome to 360
Thank
of
you.
Opera. Welcome, Opera for Peace. We're very excited to have you and to discuss what this is and what the project is like. And yeah, welcome. So I'm gonna let everyone know that towards the end we're gonna leave some time for some open questions that you might have or that might arise as we have our conversation. So let's get started. Let's see. So for people who may not be familiar with Opera for Peace, leading young voices of the world, could you explain to us what it is?
With pleasure, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. Opera for Peace is a new cultural movement. We came together to create a better future for young and actually for all of us. We inspire and we bring people together from all countries around the world. We have some wonderful values that we work within. Our values are diversity, inclusion, equality, of course, man, woman, affordable education, sustainability, also really giving equal opportunities, and of course, within all of this, artistic excellence. We are actually now the largest worldwide network for young singers. We support, we give help to, we advise, we connect young singers to other singers, and also to our institutions. We have an incredible network of over 60 partners, opera houses, festivals, orchestras, international organizations, institutions. And we also have an incredible network of artistic ambassadors, advisors, supporters, yeah, so we to tell you a little bit about our work. We work in, let's say, 4 main areas. So first of all, we facilitate and initiate educational and cultural exchanges between our young artist programs and our partners. We also have an international calendar of events, because as you know, young artists above all want to perform.
Yeah.
This is why you guys are there, and this is why we're so passionate about you and listening to you. So we have that. We also have our talks with the ambassadors, with the advisors. We have masterclasses, we have residencies, and we have also special artistic projects.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful introduction. Thank you. So I'm also interested to learn a little bit about you and what your background is and how you decided to create this organization and who is on your team and how this kind of happened.
Sure. So I have a musical background. I have a music background in performance, but also mostly in musicology. So I went to Berkeley in the US, and I went to King's College. Let's say I have over 20 years experience in artistic administration, especially working in opera houses. So I started my career in San Francisco Opera, and I have just recently been working as deputy casting director of Opéra de Paris. So, you know, working in these very close environments, and in close proximity to artists, I was in a very let's say, special position to see exactly what was happening in the system, how things were going, speaking a lot to colleagues, speaking to a lot to different people, and kind of came to the conclusion with other colleagues that the system needed to be reinvented. And we understood that artists wanted to better relate to the world in which we live in which they live in. They wanted to be better informed. They want to be better protected as well. We understood that, let's say, an international charter of social progress values needed to be established on an international level to reflect global trends, to really understand and to be in touch with the world today. I think that will help all of us in the business. It will help to attract new audiences and also to attract new sponsors, which we desperately need to move forward in this business. And you know, so this is what Opera for Peace are doing. With regards to our team, so we have an amazing team, international, working from all countries, all over the world, different continents. I have two co-founders. First co-founder is Dmitry Dovin, and he works at the Bolshoi. He's been there for very many years, and he's a wonderful colleague, wonderful person. He also established the Young Artist Program at the Bolshoi, which had their 10th anniversary in December, and which was a lineup of the most wonderful singers you can imagine. So he's part of the project. He's leading vocal coach in the world. We have another wonderful colleague called Paolo Petruccelli, who works for UNESCO, who has many different projects and most incredible global view on the world. He works also for Opera di Roma. He works for the Royal Opera House in Muscat in Oman. So he's very active with us and gives us wonderful connections. From the New York, let's say the New York office side of things, we have the incredible Jenna Wolf, who I think you know.
Yes,
and
love Jenna. She's the best.
She is the best, and she works for Lenny's, which is a female-led powerhouse, and working with so many wonderful artists. So she's very much on board, and she's been very key to really understanding, let's say, the social side of things, diversity, equality, and all these amazing and very important topics. Also in New York, we have Kamal Khan, who is the most incredible vocal coach. He trains many stars, and not only training many stars, his passion is really for helping young artists from emerging countries. So he was in South Africa for 15 years. He works in Puerto Rico. I mean, he does so many wonderful things. We have another wonderful colleague from New York who helps us with finance and with this kind of side of things. We have a team in Moscow, Valentina and Anastasia, who are so dedicated. And let's say we have our West Coast side of things in the US and LA with Nikki Harper from LA Opera, and Jennifer Quintard, who has just been working at the Dallas Opera. So we have a very, very nice team.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So,
yeah. Well, you need a team to get things done.
You definitely need a team. Definitely.
So what are some highlights of projects and collaborations that have happened so far?
Okay, so we only launched 6 months ago, but I have to say, in those 6 months, we've had the most amazing opportunities and different things have been happening. So we launched on the first World Opera Day on the 25th of October in front of 300 international colleagues. So this was a wonderful platform for us in the presence of UNESCO. So this worked very, very well. Our first event was at the Dallas Opera in November with the Hart Institute of Women Conductors, because we also really support female conductors. They're a big part of what we do.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic. We had a lineup of the eight most exciting young singers, and we had a very big success there. We recently just had a gala event in Sochi in Russia. So this was at the Winter International Arts Festival. And that was great, and we've been invited back next year, so I'm very happy about that. Unfortunately, we had to cancel a very important event in Washington, which was supposed to happen in March at the Washington National Opera, but it's luckily been postponed until next year, so we're not going to lose out on that one. So yeah, I mean, those are highlights. We started our ambassador talks, where our ambassador goes into young artist programs and speaks to young artists about many issues. And something that we're very, very proud of, we had our first cultural exchange where we gave the opportunity and we facilitated an exchange between Houston Grand Opera and Opera Australia. So William Guangbosu, who's a fantastic Chinese bass, had the opportunity to go to Sydney and to train there and to get different cultural experiences and complementary resources. So this is kind of, let's say, all in the first 5 months, and we have many things happening, and our next press release will be coming out next week. So stay tuned.
We'll stay tuned. So I have a question. With all these, I mean, amazing things that you've done in the past 6 months, was all of it planned from the start, or did things kind of, once you got going, did things pop up that maybe you hadn't necessarily planned at the beginning?
Definitely. With this kind of project, it's evolving all the time because we want to be so in tune with trends and what's happening. We have to be flexible. We have to be adaptable. I mean, what's happening now in the world with this huge crisis, I have to say, I'm very proud of how we have been, we've managed to adapt ourselves because we have managed to put a lot of our work online. So we have online lessons for students, for artists in different places around the world, in Jordan, in Saudi Arabia, in Russia, in Latin America. So these young artists have access to the best artists, the best teachers, the best coaches online. So we've managed to kind of make that online. We've also managed to secure a very, very important digital partnership with a very big media online digital company that we're going to be announcing soon. So all our activity is going to be on this platform online for everyone to see. Amazing. So we've managed to adapt, and I have to say that, one of the positive things that have come out of all this COVID virus is that artists are beginning to understand the importance of what we're doing and the importance of coming together and of being together in this kind of work. So artists have been contacting us. How can we help? How can we get involved? How can we do something? So we've been planning, but as we know, life throws things at us, and
totally. I mean, and yeah, exactly. This idea of adaptability, which I think is kind of key for the future of our industry, right? Staying flexible. Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. So, who are some of your ambassadors for Opera for Peace, and what role do they play in the mission of Opera for Peace?
So, you know, we are so lucky to have so many wonderful artists on board, ambassadors, advisors, and, you know, these are people that have been inspiring us all the time. They inspire us on stage, and now they're inspiring us in our work. So as I said, we have 22 artist ambassadors. So let's name a few names. We have the wonderful Larry Brownlee, who does so much for everyone, and he's such a wonderful inspiration. Brian Jade, who does so much for the business and has, you know, really come out of everything, all this situation as a leader. Another huge leader is lovely Lisette Oropeza. This is a strong woman. This is a woman who knows what she wants. She goes for it. She does it. She's a strong Latina. Talking about strong Latinas, we have Eileen Perez, Isabel Leonard, and they're inspiring people all over the world. I can't forget Nicole Carr and Etienne Dupuis. And I have to say, you know, these people were, you know, performing last night at the Met Live. Yeah. And they were so wonderful, and we were so proud of them from the project. Jakub Orlinsky is just the coolest guy. Rehab Chayeb, Christian Van Horn. The list just goes on and on. Golda Schultz, who's doing such wonderful work in South Africa. And on the conductor side, we have Daniele Rustioni, who's so charismatic. We have Lydia Yankovskaya from the Chicago Opera Theatre, the first woman music director in the US. So she's on board. And then on the advisor side of things, we have we have legends, we have Thomas Hampson, we have Sumi Jo, we have Maestro Fabio Luisi, Sandra Ravanovsky, Ludovic Tézier. So, you know, we have, let's say, the big names, so committed to what we're doing, to our values and to our work, that we brainstorm with them, we speak to them, they have ideas, we try and put it into place. We try, we fail, we succeed. We're coming together to kind of brainstorm. They perform in our events, which is a huge bonus for our partners, because of course they all have very busy schedules. They give talks, and most importantly, they mentor young artists, giving advice that maybe they didn't have when they were starting out, advice that young artists need to know about the business, and we've spoken so much about this. But these are people actually going out there, giving their time and doing it.
That's amazing. Well, it seems like there was a very big need for all of these people, you know, to come together, not only from the young artist's point of view, but also from people ahead in their careers, for this need for unity and, you know, and this want for opera to continue to strive.
Exactly. Exactly. And we know how important it is, especially at this time. You know, we're trying to find ways of moving forward as well.
Yeah. So what are you working on as an organization right now during this crazy quarantine time? And even if, of course, it's a very uncertain time, what are some plans that you might be discussing for the future?
Sure. Well, of course, as I said, everything at the moment is going online, and that is working very well. But of course, we're going to want to be getting on stage soon, and as much as we can. And I'm happy to say that we do have an event planned in the summer that is still apparently going to happen, and we hope. This is in Italy, in Lerici. And it's at a wonderful festival. So it's the Lerici Music Festival. It's conducted by Maestro Gianluca Marciano. And it's an opera for peace event. We have our ambassadors there. We're going to have young artists part of it. And, you know, they're so determined to make this happen, and they have a lot of flexibility with the town. So if it's not in August, it could be in September. So we're praying that that's going to happen. So that's something to look forward to. We're going to be having a big press conference there. They're very much behind us. So we thank, everyone from Lerici, the general director, Gianluca, and all their team. So that's hopefully going to be happening in August. After that, we'll see kind of the situation in different countries. But from 21, we have 8 events, and then we have a lot more happening in terms of masterclasses and talks and all our activity. We're going to be really, going for it.
Yeah.
So trying to be creative, trying to be creative.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's one silver lining of all this situation is that it's really pushing everyone to, if you didn't get creative before, and now you have to, and
you
it's
have
really
to get creative.
Exactly. Our boundaries and trying to make us think, okay, like in such a limited situation, what can we still do? And I think we're still very, very lucky to have the gift of the internet and technology. And even if it's not perfect, I mean, look at everything we're still able to do and to share art through the internet.
I know. And thanks to you as well, and all the work you're doing to keep things going. And it's so wonderful and inspirational, and I'm so happy we can get together and talk. There's one thing that just came to my mind: creativity. So we've been trying to really think outside the box, and I've put together a collaboration with one of the top fashion stylists in the world. He's called Harold James. He's the most incredible, warm, wonderful man. He lives in Paris, but he works all over. He works with Hollywood stars. He works with he's one of the best in the business. He's completely inspired by the project, with what we're doing, and he has agreed to work with our emerging artists. We're going to be announcing 12 of the most exciting young artists today. Work with them, not only on their image, because beauty is only skin deep, but also on empowerment, how to find yourself, how to be the best artist you can be, communication, and also, of course, to look wonderful. So we're very grateful to him, and this is very. And be very creative in that way.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. Yes, exactly. And
for the young artists,
I mean,
it's a big thing.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what you were saying at the beginning, looking for bigger sponsors, and it's also establishing, I think some people think that this idea of making opera more accessible or more cool or whatever is just dumbing it down and shoving it to people's faces. And that's not at all. There's a lot of amazing people like you guys actually really making an effort to create a connection between opera and other very visible forms of art and artists. And of course, people are going to be interested, when it's well presented and with good intentions and with a good mission. So that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so a little bit this more general and looking into the future too. What do you think is missing in the opera industry right now? It can be pre-quarantine, because I know right now that you would like to see happen or help make happen with Opera for Peace in order to create a better and more sustainable future for our art form?
This is definitely, pre, post, present, it's all coming together now.
Yeah.
This has highlighted everything that's been happening. This is really a time to reflect. This is a time to reflect, and to come together. What I've been saying, it's the time to move forward. We've been having a lot of discussions with our ambassadors, with our advisors, with the young artists, with the people who support us, and a lot of our supporters are under 25. We work with a lot of student associations and music schools, and they're really helping to kind of move things forward, and we're having very discussions. And we truly think that to move forward, we need to put everything into finding, into nurturing, and into supporting diverse talent, really diverse talent, to put on stages and to communicate and to give another voice to everything that we're doing. What are ways of let's say, making a sustainable future? We came up with an idea, and of course this is still embryonic, so we need to think a little bit more about it, but I think one of the main ideas is to maybe, let's say, focus more on the individual artist than on the institution, which would mean that instead of giving money to institutions that we should all do anyway, so not taking away, but instead of just focusing on the institutions, we should, let's say, maybe focus on the individual artist, which would mean that this would give financial security to artists at the beginning of their careers. As we know, this is the most delicate time when they don't have money, and especially artists from, let's say, disadvantaged backgrounds, when they don't have access to the same opportunities and the same material means, to have some kind of financial security. We've also, in the same vein, we've also been speaking to opera administrations, to casting people. This is where I come from. To say, instead of one contract to a young artist, why don't we see their career a little bit longer term, to give contracts maybe over 3 years, over 5 years. So there is some kind of financial stability, not just to be in like an ensemble program or capacity, still with the freedom to freelance and to do other things, but to have a theatre that really believes in you and gives you that kind of long-term security. So there's financial security, there's career security, with contracts over several years, because young artists need to have a sustainable career future. So these are the kind of the ideas that we've been thinking about, and I have to say some very big opera houses are interested in our discussions, and they're interested in maybe looking a little bit at how casting is done and how opportunities are given. And this is, of course, everything that we're doing in Opera for Peace, really focusing on the individual to make a better collective, let's say, but focusing on the individual, giving specific opportunities to them. So this kind of all comes into what we're doing.
And what you mentioned about this idea of a bit longer term stability for young artists. I mean, of course, the financial side, but also mentally, it's very, especially I would say here in the States, where there's a little bit less of options as far as longer residencies and fest contracts and ensemble contracts. It really wears down on young artists, this of the constant, fight for your life. That's not only financial, but also, okay, like I'm doing this, but I can't even focus on this because I have to prepare this audition to make sure I have something in 2 months. And I think it's genius, this idea of kind of restructuring this idea of casting to invest in an artist a little bit, what a manager would do with a young artist, right? Invest a little bit longer in their career, which I think it's gonna inevitably make them perform better also, because they have a little bit of more of a long-term plan and they can breathe and focus and doing their job well, right?
Exactly. And I mean, you know, I have to say, coming from the casting side of things, I'm now, let's say, on the other side where I'm really able to speak to artists. And, you know, I was just in South Africa in January, and then I was in Russia in February, and taking the time to speak and give seminars and to empower and to really listen to people and what they have to say. I mean, some artists, you know, they have families to worry about. They can't afford to audition. So we're going to be, you know, with our fundraising and with the programs we're doing, we can pay for them to fly somewhere. Of course, at the moment, flying anywhere is not possible. So even if we can help them to make a good quality recording, I mean, if I tell you the amount of young, fantastic youngsters that don't have proper material, how can you sell yourself? How can you get yourself out there? If you're from South Africa and, you know, maybe you can't afford to fly somewhere, someone asks for a recording, if you don't have a good quality recording, you're penalized directly. So we're really speaking and understanding what people need.
Yeah. And also there's I mean, what I think it's great that you're doing, that it's not only, okay, here's a check, you know, it's not only you're trying to give financial stability from an indirect way also, which is like maybe providing lessons, providing materials, or like teaching also. Not depending on your background, you might be more business savvy or not. So giving this opportunity of teaching, you know, a little bit of finance, or, you know, depending on how the world is going, you know, okay, with this money, this sponsor gives you how to make the most of it. Things like that are invaluable.
We have to give financial advice as well. I mean, this is, you know, number one is financial advice. You know, once you get your first paycheck, what do you do with it? I mean, you know, this is stuff we've all kind of learned more or less. But for some young artists, it's not so easy. And we see that people are really living from contract to contract. So there's a whole system, a whole way of thinking, and, you know, we're determined to do that.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm gonna let people know, if you have questions, please write in. We will be happy to answer. In the meantime, I have another more general, personal question for you. Why opera? How did opera come into your life?
You know, I've always been taken to the opera by my mother, so I was exposed. I mean, this is kind of the classic answer, I know, but it works. I was taken to opera, you know, in London by my mother when I was very young, and I found it so overwhelming, so beautiful, so dramatic, the costumes and the singers, and, you know, and I just kept up this love for opera throughout my school. When I was studying for exams, I would listen to Tosca and so many different other things repeatedly. And, you know, you find yourself in another world, and it's just the most powerful art form, complete art form that there is ever. And, you know, the more you delve into it, the more, you know, you understand that you want to learn more. I mean, it's just so wonderful, and speaks to so many different people. And I mean, of course, there's the cliche, you know, music without borders, and when music speaks, everyone understands. But it's true. It is true. And for me, the most beautiful thing, the most beautiful instrument is the human voice. It's the most fragile, it's the most difficult, it's the most frustrating. But it's the most intimate, it's the most wonderful instrument, for me anyway. So I've dedicated my life to it, and I will keep dedicating everything I have, to making, you know, this the best world we can live in, and, you know.
Oh, wonderful answer. I loved it. Okay, I think people are a little shy We have not,
Oh,
we got some nice comments though. Someone said, oh, OTP Music Podcast says, awesome work. They said, let's keep the hearts going. Yes.
oh.
So I'm curious, is there any, well, I know you're making big announcement next week, but is there maybe any, can we expect any virtual performance from Opera for Peace, any virtual class that everyone could have access to?
Yeah, well, okay, this is part of the press release, but I will give you a little avant-premiere. Well, I already did with the name of the new advisors and ambassadors, but we have teamed up with the most wonderful initiative called Keep the Music Going with Ryan McKinney. I think you probably know
he's
it.
amazing.
He's amazing. He's so passionate, and he's really inspired us. And we're going to be doing a lot of things with him and with this initiative in the future. And our ambassadors are going to be increasingly involved with it. Nicole Carr has been did the most incredible initiative for Australian artists. So we're bringing all of these different things together to help financially, to encourage people to donate to the AGMA Relief Foundation and the artistry. So this is kind of one of the initiatives, and it's going to be growing. And also with our new media partnership, which is a very big thing. There's going to be a lot of performing initiatives with them, with our emerging artists, also with our ambassadors. So that's a very big deal.
Wonderful. I like exclusive previews.
Yeah.
We have a question here. Okay, let me pull it up. Oh, we have two. Here it is. Okay. How do you feel the time we're in will influence opera?
Okay. I think that I'm just going to get that one. So how's it going to influence opera? Well, I mean, it's pretty much what I've been saying. I think that it's going to, I mean, a lot of things are going to be, let's say, more digital. I think for quite a while, things are going to be very difficult with the theatres. So I think things are going to diversify, and I think funding projects will be, let's say, more diversified, and money will not just go to the usual institutions. They will go to, I hope, projects like Opera for Peace, who are thinking outside the box and flexible and working in very many different ways. So I think there's going to be kind of a change where people are looking for something a little bit different. And that's not only in a couple of international opera houses. We also want them and we need them. And, we fell in love with opera because of them. But we have to look for something else. We have to adapt, like every other single industry in this world is having to adapt. We cannot stay with the same things. So I think there'll be increasing diversity in terms of projects and initiatives and ways that we support these.
Great. And I also have a question. Because we're talking a lot, of course, the administrative side and organization, but do you think maybe I'm a very positive person, so I really feel like there's going to be a creative burst after once we're let out of our cages. What do you think, or has this crossed your mind? I don't know what types of crazy things people will come up with.
Oh God, I think it's already happening. Did you hear about the English National Opera? There's going to be through opera in Alexandra Palace, which is kind of 10 minutes from where my parents live in London, so I know exactly where that will be. I think people are going to be there will be a burst of creativity. I think a lot of it isn't going to work, but I mean, if some of it works, that's fantastic. And I think that, I mean, creativity is already happening. I mean, when I think about everything that we've done on our level in the last 2 months, I mean, it's night and day. We've completely been, you know, brainstorming and doing different things. So let's try and embrace this time, and, you know, let's move forward and, you know, give the, you know, the initiative that, you know, let's reinvent, you know, let's try and move forward.
Exactly. And I think what people sometimes forget, which before the quarantine was also a topic, is this idea of, you know, new music and new operas. And, you know, because we look back and we say like, oh, there's never going to be another Mozart or whatever, but we forget that to have all the masterpieces that we have today from the past, there was a lot of trial and error back then too.
Oh, definitely.
So to create those great ideas and new organizations and new masterpieces, there has to be trial and error. And maybe, I mean, I would go to a drive-through opera. I think it's brilliant. But, you know, maybe in actuality it works, maybe it doesn't. But if we don't push those boundaries and if we don't try, we're going to get stuck in the past.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, our partners have been very creative and trying different things. And you know, we'll be there alongside with them. And, you know, these ideas will come from different countries, you know, and they'll come from the Middle East, and they'll come from China, and they'll come from Latin America and from Russia. And from all these countries, you know, things are coming out of, and we're inspiring them, and we're talking to them, and we're pushing things through. And, you know, let's hope that happens. That's what I hope.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's all the questions we have for now. Okay. I'm gonna do a last question to kind of, because I think we've covered so much. I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of, you know, the equality between women and men in our industry. I mean, in general in the world, but especially in our industry. How do you see that? You talked about Opera for Peace, you know, focusing on diversity, but especially this girl power side of things. What are your thoughts on that as a woman leader?
Well, I think, you know, first of all, one has to be a brave leader. I think this is number one. You know, you can't be scared to discuss topics, even, and may I say, especially in cultures where, you know, they may not be socially as advanced as we are in the States, and, you know, in Europe and in the UK and in Europe, is not to be scared of that. You know, really to go in respectfully and to discuss, and any steps taken is a triumph. I mean, I'll just give you one example very quickly. When I was in Russia, in Sochi, in February, I had 2 seminars with the young artists there, and I mean, ranging from 16 to, I think, maybe 25, so very young artists. But, you know, in Russia they start very young and they're very passionate. And, you know, I was just talking about you know, a safe and a respectful working environment. And I was saying to the young women what they should or should not accept in a work environment, that, you know, today things are not how they were before. They didn't, just to give you an example, they'd never heard of the Me Too movement. So, you know, just to give you an idea of, you know, the difference in our cultures. So I explained it, you know, and I said, you know, you don't have to accept anything, any untoward behavior, but, you know, speaking to women is one thing, but speaking to the young guys is as important. You know, this is how you behave, this is how people are expected, you know, to be treated. If you feel unsafe, you can go to the opera or, you know, the artistic administration, and you can speak to people, and you shouldn't feel bullied or, you know, or harassed in any way whatsoever. So, you know, these are things that for us are very natural, because we're used to these conversations. These are not conversations that a lot of people are used to. So, you know, this was something that was so, I have to say, it was really one of the highlights of my career, was to be able to go in there and to speak to the young people, and to kind of talk about our values and talk about different ways that we can advance together. So yeah, I mean, you know, that's ways of making a real change.
Yeah, especially because, I mean, the nature of opera is so international, and more international as, you know, flights and you know, the more we're able to fly faster places, it becomes more and more international. And that's where, you know, there some conflicts may arise, because even if we're in a very international world, like, there are culture clashes. So that's very important to bring up, you know, how we have these conversations, and how to understand, not only to share our culture, but to also make an effort to understand other people's culture.
Exactly. I've just seen a comment, tough conversation. Yeah, it is a tough conversation, but someone has to do it. And, you know, from working in very many opera houses, you know, you see how people behave, you see what happens, and there has to be a point where enough is enough. So, you know, I'm willing to take on that tough conversation, and I'm willing to take on that tough job, because I think it's extremely necessary, and I think people will be happier afterwards, in the work and outside the work.
Yeah. And even, I mean, even here in the States and in Europe, where we think, you know, it should be a more natural conversation, still a lot of people don't want to hear it. And I think raising up these questions and talking about it is already a really big step in the right direction, because we need to, there's certain things that can't be a secret anymore. You know, things happen, and the only way to make progress is to put a light on them and say, this is right, this is wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah. They say, oh, say thanks for what, the music podcast is saying thanks for what you do.
Thank you for being there. And, you know, let's do this all together, guys. You know, follow us, hashtag Opera for Peace. Operaforpeace.org is our website. And as I said, press release, very long and very important out next week or the week after. So please watch out for everything that's changed and that we're doing. And, you know, let's make this really important opera movement of our time, so that we can all have a better future together.
Yes. Could not agree more. Thank you so much for your time, for the thorough explanation, and it's been a really inspiring conversation. And we are your friends. You have all of our support here at 360 of Opera. Anything we can do to help and to just help this movement keep growing and go forward, we're here to help.
Thank you so much, and let's do this again. And stay safe and stay well, and let's do it.
Yes. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao. Bye.